Hi guys, Chelsea the Reading Outlaw here for another Top 5 Wednesday. As you guys know, Top 5 Wednesday was invented by the beautiful Ginger Reads Lainey, and I will link both to her channel and to the Top 5 Wednesday Goodread group down below. Today's topic is the top 5 books that you'd like to see made into television series, but not movies. That's like the caveat. So most of these are series because I think book series naturally lend themselves to being television series. The only one that's not is this first one we're going to start with, and it is Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates. For those of you who haven't read it, this is the kind of story of a 1950s suburban relationship and how it becomes more and more constricting and suffocating for both the man and the woman. It's a kind of really incisive and invasive look at how suburban life can be, or especially how suburban life was in the late 1950s, early 1960s. As this one's already been made into a movie, it's a little bit of a cheat, but I think that there's enough material here and you could kind of pull enough out of it to almost get like a Mad Men counterpart, suburban everyman kind of tale out of it for television. So, yeah, that's my first choice. Like I said, the rest of these are series, 2 adult, 2 young adult. We'll start with the young adult. Well, this one's actually a children's book. It's The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Stewart. This book is about a group of genius kids who have to take a series of kind of like tests and exams to get into something called the Mysterious Benedict Society, which is a crime-solving league of children who basically use puzzles and their wits to help solve crimes or help fight crime and solve mysteries. There are 4 in this book, 4 in the series and a prequel. It might be 3 in the series and a prequel. I just think that it's cute. The writing is great. There's plenty of, adventure lines and plot stories there, and each kid has their own backstory as to kind of how they became the genius that they are. So I think it is rife for television plunder. I would really like to see this done almost in the vein of like The Big Bang Theory, but with kids. Next up is this big honker of a thing, which, as you can see, is really beat up. It's been through some wear and tear. It's the His Dark Materials trilogy by Philip Pullman. This is also, again, a little bit of a cheat because they made the first book, The Golden Compass, into an awful, awful movie with Nicole Kidman in it. That's why I think that this book would lend itself more to a television show than it ever would to a series of movies, because there is so much here and there's so much that goes on and there's so much backstory that I feel like if you had the ability to kind of tease that out in hour-long episodes or half-hour-long episodes, there's really a lot there content-wise. And the special effects are such that I don't think you'd need like a huge TV budget. I would almost put this, like, in my mind in the same vein as like Lost, or kind of like a J.J. Abrams-y kind of television show. I mean, the content is not at all the same, but I think stylistically it could kind of, go down that same line. I'm going to assume most of you know what these about, the individual books. I don't know if you can read that, but it's The Golden Compass, The Subtle Knife, and The Amber Spyglass. It's about this girl named Lyra, who is on an adventure with her daemon, which is like an animal representation of her spirit. And they have a golden compass, and they are fighting the Magisterium, which is this evil group of adults who are separating children from their spirit animals in a really violent way and to really unfortunate ends. And it is just, her tales. I doubt it'll ever be made into a TV show because adults and critics have read it, and it's pretty clearly like an attack on the Catholic Church and kind of a plea for not atheism, but agnosticism maybe. It gets a little heavy towards the end, but it's television, so we can just kind of gloss over that part, right? Next up are the 2 adult series. I'm only going to show you the first one because I have the box set of these, but it's like really hard to deal with. So I'm just going to show you the first one. And it's A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. And I see this being done almost a little bit like Charmed and Bones had a baby. Like there's science, there's witchcraft, there's vampires, there's time travel, there's romance, there's danger, there's torture, there's about 1.5 million things, and that's basically just in the first book. For those of you who don't know, Deborah Harkness is a historian and a scholar who wrote about Diana Bishop, who is the last witch of the famous Bishop line from Salem. And she is in Oxford doing research, and she meets Matthew Claremont, who is a vampire, and they fall in love, even though they're not really supposed to. And then because they have kind of a forbidden romance, they come into conflict with the kind of governing body of witches and daemons and vampires, who are the three supernatural beings of this series. But there are 3 books. They go back in time to Victorian London. They are in modern science labs, like I said. I could also see this being done kind of like Sherlock in like longer installments, longer episodes. But I would be so in love with this. And if we could somehow talk Benedict Cumberbatch into playing Matthew Claremont, I would ship it forever, forever, more than any ship has ever sailed. And lastly, this would be like after we wrap up Game of Thrones, because, you know, I love Game of Thrones. If I could pick the next series to sit down with like HBO or Showtime and have them do, it would be this one. And it would be The Gunslinger by Stephen King. Well, it would be The Dark Tower by Stephen King. This is the first one, The Gunslinger. If they can do Game of Thrones, they can do The Dark Tower. That's all I'm saying. This is about Roland and his adventures to the Dark Tower. If you watch some of my last videos, you'll see I just finished the 4th out of 7 in this series, so it's another big fantasy series. This one doesn't look it, but actually there are a couple right behind me. Here's number 5, here's number 6, and here's number 7. So they are obviously like not tiny books. Like these are pretty nice size trade papers. But there's tons here. There is, we get a little bit of Western kind of style stuff. We get some really high fantasy. We get other fantasy stories kind of woven in. It's this one would be complicated because there's a lot that goes on, and it's kind of very heady, can be very heady sci-fi sometimes. But if we can really kind of strip those parts into their separate episodes or kind of write them in a way that's conducive for television, I think that this would make a great one. I mean, we've seen Stephen King movies. We've seen Stephen King TV before. They did it with Under the Dome with mixed results, but I think that's because of the source material. I was not the hugest fan of Under the Dome. But anyway, I think we could do it right here. Let's make it happen. Dark Tower, people. Dark Tower. And that is my really longer than I thought it would be Top 5 Wednesday. As always, comment down below, especially if you're also doing Top 5 Wednesday. I'd love to check out your video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys around the internet. Bye.